We're getting through our technical difficulties today.
We're still not perfect.
Oh man, audio goes down and we freak out. We don't know what to do. But we're back and we're in, and we'll give it a 30-minute friggin' rock and roll sesh is what we're gonna do. Jackson Wary.
Yes.
That's just what we're gonna do.
Let's see if this is.
You tell me when you're locked in, homie, and then we're gonna riff hard for yeah, good solid 30-minute sesh.
X Factor doesn't seem to.
We're checking boxes today. That's what we're doing. Solving problems. Solving problems.
Why does X Factor not seem to be on? Working now.
It's all right.
Nope.
We could just record it to that one and then fire it up too if we wanted to. If we really, really had to.
Yeah, it looks like apologies guys, looks like it's just YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram currently.
Perfect.
But we have our questions from previously.
Perfect. Well, let's rock and roll with the questions. Let's get it hot.
Okay.
Well, welcome in. Ha! Here we go.
All right.
Cool. What do we got for question one, Jackson?
First one. All right. There's so much talk. Oh, this is from Kurt.
Okay, Kurt.
From a few weeks ago.
Okay, perfect.
There's so much talk about getting shallow, and I'm wondering if I can understand how shallow at P5 is connected to a shallow angle of attack, and is this the holy grail? Does a steep angle of attack suggest you are steep at P5 and probably connect to less club face stability? I'm someone who feels like they pull the club down from the top and really high ball flight. Lots of spin.
Yeah. So I think this is always a question that I ask whenever somebody goes, I'm steep, because there's two almost definitions of steep out there. Are we talking about the shaft's pitch in delivery, so roughly at P5? Or are we talking about AOA, like the angle of attack into the golf ball? And really, Kurt with a T. So what's interesting, man, is oftentimes what we will see is players that are steep with the shaft into delivery are overly shallow with their angle of attack through the strike. In fact, to the point where it like completely jeopardizes it. Because if you really think about it, the matchup here, if I get the golf club steepening severely here, through the hit, what I have to do is severely laterally bend to get the golf club like reasonable in the hit. So what is that going to look like from a face-on perspective? So again, steep shaft here is going to always mean that they're going to laterally bend this way, no rotation in the chest. And now from here, you can definitely see where the bottom out is going to be. And so now I can't squeeze and penetrate like into the golf ball at all. Like I can't get in there. So oftentimes, funny enough, what I prefer to see players do, and let me grab a dowel here really quick and I can kind of show you this. This is a kind of an interesting mapping exercise for a lot of folks. And I do this often with a lot of juniors in the academy. So let's say that I have this dowel right here that's roughly equidistant between each foot here, so I'd be set up right in this space. What I'll have them do is try to take these like really hefty, steep divots on this side of the dowel here, and it's extremely difficult for them to do because if you think about this, over here if I'm rotating, see how just in the rotation of my trunk, this is going to be a downward trajectory in my trunk to move that golf club like down in this space. But then as soon as I get in here, as I keep rotating, see how now we have this upward trajectory. So what actually ends up happening in the release in an effort to shoot the energy down is it just complements this upward trajectory and rotation here so that I can shoot the golf club there. So I'll have them set up here and just go make these like really meaty divots. And the descent angle into the turf is incredibly, incredibly shallow. Now, what pairs really well with that mapping, which again looks like I'm getting my chest forward to be able to get the golf club into the ground here, is to organize the golf club and shallow it, meaning that I'm moving the center of mass of the club back behind me. And we describe this in a number of different ways. Negative alpha force, coronal plane release, active release, whatever you want to call this over here, supination, internal rotation, rib bend, blah, blah, blah. There's a load of different ways to move the golf club actively here. But if I do that and I'm actively moving it here, you can definitely see where it looks like I'm going to bottom out here in this space. And so if I move it actively here while getting my ribs forward, all of a sudden now everything matches up really well. So most of the time, what I would love for players to map in their mind is that they're going to be like psycho shallow in this space here while being psycho steep in this space in their mind. Now, I'm not saying that you go here and then go, okay, I'm going to throw it back over to just stick the golf club in the ground. I'm saying that it's the blend of both of those that gets us in a really good space down at the bottom. So I'm going to shallow it right here as I go steep, steep, steep with the ribs. And now all of a sudden, like, see how like that all of a sudden maps out to be a really, really nice like angle of attack in here. But we're always going to have this like descend, 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 ball keeps descending, bottom out, then it ascends. So we're actually getting like really, really nice strikes at the bottom there. So for hitting shots, I'd love to see from here, club's going massively under as I'm getting my chest forward and through. When we hit shots that way, and you'll be surprised at how like neutral that is at the bottom. The other like little asterisk here too, the amount of folks that I am trying to pressure their chest crazy forward in this transitional space, like, I mean crazy. They're going to feel like they're moving 3 head lengths forward as they're shallowing the golf club out. And then when I video them and show them how much they've moved, it's like maybe a half of a head length. It's amazing to me how far forward players' intention on moving the rib cage or their head, how far forward they can move, and it really doesn't move nearly as much as what they actually think is happening there. So really good question, kind of an interesting question there actually.
Very good, very good.
Very good.
All right.
Wonderful.
This one comes from Al Lama? Lama? Sorry, I
Nice.
apologize. Al,
Okay, we'll go with Al.
Okay.
What's up, Al?
Feels like everything goes wrong in my swing if I let the lead elbow get too forward in the downswing handle drag. It seems to cause early extension, blocks, and hooks and a ridiculous loss of power. Do you have any drills, drugs, or suggestions on how I can eliminate this life force sucking swing fault forever? Thanks.
Did he ask for a drug?
Yes, for a drug.
I like this guy already. So this is it's okay. Handle drag. Dude, I don't actually know if I've ever seen somebody handle drag, because it's an illusion. Mm-hmm. Like, let's say that I get the golf club right here and I go, I don't see anybody do this, like, ever with their arms. It's always
down.
Yeah, like it's right here. What I see is they shove the pelvis forward, and I'll start to look like this. Now, if you looked at and measured the relationship of the lead arm compared to the ribs, we'll see that. And then from here, they're most often what they'll do, and this is chicken wing isn't necessarily a bad thing, but this is bad chicken wing. What chicken wing that's negative is scap retraction this way. So in essence, what you end up doing is you pull into you, because if you laterally bend this way, because of the pelvis shooting forward, you're going to be an EE, early extension, and to balance that out, you just rake it over here. So like, this is just not a very powerful feeling for most, except for Scotty Scheffler. So what I would suggest, Bud, is this, like, because I don't want you, most of the time if we're handle dragging too, like this is like, looks like a release, this is all, and it is a release of energy, but it's all external rotation, this lead arm. And what I'd like you to just look into is with these ribs, like at the address position, let's say that I'm in delivery getting ready to hit, so I'm right in here. So I'm internal here, and I have some of this space between this lead humerus and my rib cage. I want you to pull the rib cage directly away from the golf ball. So the golf ball would be roughly on this plane down here. So these ribs should be pulling away from the golf ball here, so that now if I'm going through the strike, I can go boom right in here. And now from here, as I continue to motor through, see how the lead arm actually stays internal, but I could send all the energy out of the club head that way with the hands. Now, if you notice here, this lead arm stays massively internal compared to like where the rib cage is. And so I'm not extending and rotating this golf club out to release it. Instead, what we're doing is continuing to spiral. And I think the easiest way to see this is the posterior arm line, which goes through the scap and then down into the elbow here, and the spiral line, which goes through the scap, then under the armpit and across my abdomen here, they feather off. They like merge off of one another. So if I'm spiraling, the lead arm, we're loading up the posterior lead arm line, but to do that, this lead humerus goes into internal rotation. And that's part of what shallows the golf club in delivery too. So if I'm dropped in, I pelvic swivel here. Pelvic swivel starts to move me, like see how these lead ribs are like clumped together? If I pelvic swivel, see how these ribs all of a sudden expand? So now I'm into this spiral line load here. If I continue to go spirals with these ribs away, look at what happens to that lead arm. So it continues to move more and more internal, which is cool because if I go boom, swivel, already a little bit of internal, see that thing level out? Now if I keep going ribs away, ribs away, ribs away, look at that thing stay internal and I'm right in here. So this looks proper. And if I keep turning through and let the energy out here, but I'm not screwing with the upper arms at all, I'm just letting the energy shoot out, look at how stable that is. So we could go here, swivel, boom, there's the lead arm. See what I look like in here? Continue to go and shoot that energy out, and it really balances things out. So I know this is kind of a peculiar response to this, but the reason I'm going down this road is, dude, I just guarantee you that your diagnosis is wrong. You're not handle dragging. It's an illusion. You're losing things in the pelvis, which makes it look like you handle drag. And the other thing that you're doing most likely is if you shove the pelvis this way, this stops rotating. So you'll lower the arms to try to get the golf club down, and then it's probably in here. Without seeing your swing, it's an educated guess right now, but my working hypothesis with you is that mapping. So I'd play heavily with pelvic swivel to get into the spiral tissue load, then continue to move those ribs away from the golf ball. And how does that affect this lead upper arm? Like, see how all that just works together? So that now as you keep turning through here and keep moving those ribs away, you can shoot the energy out and you'll be freaking dime city. So play with that. Let me know how that goes, because I'll be super interested for sure. And if you can, man, like post your swing on the online academy, like in that community board, because I'd love to take a look at it. So we'll see. Okay, let's start with that.
Whoop, 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 whoop. All right, Connor. Hi, Riley and team. Thanks for all the great content.
What up, Connor?
My question is on takeaway. I just cannot master a consistent takeaway / hinging of the club throughout my bag, and it throws off my whole swing when I get it wrong and the club's mass gets going in the wrong direction. Yeah. I can piece it out with no issues forever, but when I get to a dynamic on-course swing, it goes wrong far too often. Yeah. Would you recommend moving to a DJ style early set for someone that has spent a lot of time trying but failing to get takeaway right, or keep working on it? Any advice would be great. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll say this. Like here's our workflow again. And I think we talked about this potentially last week. Like levels of importance in the golf swing. So if we have the backswing, the transition, the hit, and finish, kind of in one, and the setup. Here's the order of events. So impact is most important. That dynamic is most important. What leaks into that to make impact easier is the dynamics of transition. So where am I dynamically moving the club? Where am I dynamically moving my body in that transitional piece? Then we have setup at that point, setup number 3, just because you know, if I'm Fitzpatrick and I grip it this way, he grips it that way for a number of reasons, depending on his matchups through the hit and in transition compared to Morikawa. Lee Trevino aims way left, Rocco Mediate aims way right. They're matchups based on how they release it. Like Rocco tumbles it, so he better aim right so that he can sling it in there. And blah, 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 right? So finally, we get to backswing. So backswing is massively overrated. Massively overrated. Look at Matt Wolff. There's Nancy Lopez, Ray Floyd, Fitzpatrick, right? So the club's like, I don't know, 6 feet away from one another, like at P2 or P3. So it's not, I get the allure of it because we love lines. Like you see Adam Scott and you're like, ooh, it's like soothing because the club just looks right? It's like, now it's whatever. It's overrated because you've got from address to impact, that golf club moved, I don't know, I mean, if we really tracked it like foot by foot, 25 feet, it's a long distance and a long time to move that thing. Now, depending on what you're needing, like, do you need more of a shut tendency in the face? Do we need to be able to move the golf club more actively in this space? Do we need blah, blah, blah? Those are the questions that I would ask yourself is like, what am I wanting to do through the hit? Like, do I need to release the golf club more this way, or do I need to release the golf club more that way? Okay, well, just that, how does my body support either one of those release patterns? And to be able to do that, where in general do I need the golf club to be moving into through this delivery position or delivery state? The more that I go this way, the more I'm gonna have to turn, right? The further back there behind me the club head gets, the more I have to turn to square it. So this is more the way to square it. So look at all these boxes that we need to check first before going, okay, well, what do I need? Like Rory does not need a shut face in the backswing because of his release pattern. So what does he look like into the backswing and then up into P4? Heck of a lot more extension there compared to a friggin' Hovland who's dead shut in here. Okay, so I would look more at the backswing from the lens of what do I need to do through transition, through impact, to hit an efficient shot based on my needs. Do I want the ball higher? Do I want the ball lower? How about curvature? Blah, blah, blah. Check off those boxes first, and then the backswing we can go, well, whatever I'm trying to do in transition here, if I need the face more shut and deeper here through this transitional phase, well, let's get the golf club more shut early, and maybe because I want to move it that way, I just need it to be a little bit taller from like center of mass to handle. So just think about it as like a halfway back position that we're moving through, and I hate that position, or that word position. That's poorly worded. Like, what space do I need to move the golf club through here so it's dynamic? And you can piece it out if you want to, bud, but here's your frustration is like you can put it exactly where you need it to be, but then when you go dynamic, it doesn't look anything like that. So where does it need to map in your mind? If it's open and under, well, you're probably going to feel like it's shut and way up top to move it through there so that you can move it there. If it's too shut and too over, well, maybe it needs to rotate a little bit in here and the club can go ahead and fan a little bit more. Typically, we don't see that out of most folks. We don't need to open it more than what it already is. But I would look at it from that standpoint, and then you have this like creative license to like, ooh, I need the arrangement taller here, and I need the face more shut early in the backswing, so it makes transition easier for me. That's easier to digest than trying to make P3 look just right, or P2.5 or whatever, halfway back. Let's go about it from that standpoint, and don't be afraid to make your golf swing like appear and feel like a caricature of a great swing as you're exploring the space. Great question, though.
I like that description. A caricature.
A caricature.
Caricature.
It can be grotesque.
It is. It's a shape.
Shapes, big shapes.
All right, Dean.
Dean.
The
What up,
hub,
D?
The hub path per Michael Jacobs is not circular, but instead moves sharply up and in towards the body center through impact. How does that work with also hitting through the shot with the humerus bones?
Yeah. So Michael Jacobs is freaking awesome, by the way. So good on you for taking a look at Michael Jacobs. I owe him a ton when it comes to just a better understanding of like force direction, and what the golf club's actively doing. Just to kind of go through some of this stuff, like they've, and this is I am airplane here, nose is pointing out here, the tail's back towards me, and then wing, wing. So he's described forces this way, and forces this way, and it's freaking awesome. So now we can describe what's going on in the golf club. So thank you, Michael Jacobs. I believe what you're talking about is this idea that in order to shoot the golf club out, I'm going to pull the handle back up and into me. And while if we're tracking a certain portion of the grip, that does happen, what's really happening is, let's take to answer this, I think this would be a good analogy. So let's say that I have a catapult here, and the reason that a catapult can just freaking sling a rock is because it is a dual levers system. So I've got one lever down here to go ahead and send this. Like, see, I can just pivot from here. So this space does not move. That space is moving. So pivot point. Now, if I have this catapult right here, lever here, and a string here with a rock holding, and that string is holding that rock, this will also act as a lever. So as this goes, at some point in catapults, this will stop so that slows down and this goes. So imagine a rock just being here and I send it. It's not going to go nearly as far as lever, another lever to sling it. In the golf swing, we've got a very similar setup to that. So if I'm just swinging this, lever right here. Okay, now if I just had a ball in my hand and I just sent it, it would go a certain distance. If I have this lever also hinged, as this goes, eventually this lever needs to slow down or stop to send that one. And imagine a system where it's that way. That way. Now if I hit something down here, if I had like the rock attached here to send, that is absolutely going to go further. So it's this dual lever system that makes the golf ball go a long ways. And we put a lot of energy at the bottom with that. Now, what actually is happening when I put 2 points of contact on the grip, we create a different pivot point because, and if we want to use golf language here, we're calling this point where my hands are connecting the hub. And the hub point is what becomes the lever. Now, this is so cool. I've got this club over there, that club head over there, and I want to send it out and around forward. In order for it to go out and around forward, this is the pivot point. So where's the butt end of the club going to go? It's going to actually go away from the target, and in doing this, see how it comes back towards me. So the butt end of the club comes back towards me. So if we're measuring this distance away from me, this comes back closer to me during this time of unload. And that's what we're tracking when folks are going, yeah, the club needs to come back into you and pull back into you so you can shoot this energy out. Well, yeah, but if I say that to somebody, what are they going to do? They're going to take the hub and pull it in this way, and now like this is not speed. So what we want with speed is this outward feel of the club shooting away. But if I do that, watch where this is going. See how it backs up? Like if we just traced where this went, it comes back, boom, comes back away from the target and back towards me. That's what we're tracking, okay? But it has to do more with the hub pivot point. And on that note too, this is super interesting when it comes to like hand speed. Hand speed is at its greatest right in here, like between P5 and P6. Again, P5 is lead arm level, P6 is shaft level. So somewhere in the space, we're gonna have the greatest hand speed. But then that hand speed slows down because what happens is the club head is going to shoot. So see how the hands would slow down to shoot the club? Now, do you have to actively think that? No, I don't think so. Like most folks, like I've never told any one of my students that in a lesson. I've never gone, okay, what we want to do is speed the hands up here, then slow them down so you can sling it. I mean, like that is, oh man, that's tough to grasp that concept. But if we're attentive to how do I send the energy out with the club, like I've got it loaded here and I can unload it there. If I turn with that and unload, all that dynamic is going to happen. So for us golf geeks, like who's the gentleman that asked this question?
Dean.
Like Dean and myself and Jackson, like, yeah, I'll read that freaking article and go, dude, that's the sickest shit I've ever heard. That's awesome. But from the data, all that quantitative information, as a coach, what I'm looking to do is relay that information in a qualitative way. That's why I use so many freaking analogies and like, what if we did that? I'm trying to paint a picture in this like really creative way so that somebody can see that picture and go, okay, I can see the golf swing and sense that, and it becomes this sensory freaking like, oh, I got it. You can see what's going on in the golf swing in a qualitative way rather than the quantitative information that is freaking awesome, by the way, from Michael Jacobs. But that's what we're seeing in like that type of in that question there. So hopefully that makes sense to you.
Mm-hmm. And keep going.
Yeah, let's go one more question.
All right.
One more question.
This will be, I think, kind of touched on this a little bit, but I think we can go a little further into it.
Great.
It's from Jason. Can you explain further on how the two release patterns are related to how the wrist organize in the backswing, radial hinge versus right wrist extension? Thanks again. Thanks again. I look forward to this format every week.
That's awesome.
English.
Well, thanks so much for, I think this format if we're being honest, it's probably for a certain type of learner. It's somebody that wants like a big deep dive of information. So those of you like, I'm sorry again, what?
Jason.
Jason, those of you that are like you, dude, like you're a fun homie to jam with, because I mean, if you came in here and you're hanging out all day, dude, we could talk about golf swing for probably 2 weeks straight and not talk about any other stuff. So thanks so much for tuning in, and that means a lot that you'd say that. So here's the loads, the two different loads, okay, and the two different unloads. So let's just describe one at a time here. So I could load the golf club in a radial manner, unload it in an ulnar manner, and then I would pronate and supinate. So I would supinate here and pronate here to release. Now, that doesn't look anything like a golf swing. So let's put some rotation or some body action in here. So if I go turn, now I'm radial. So just like I just showed here, I'd go turn radial. Now I'd go ulnar unload. And then from here, as I throw that there, the way that I'm going to release this now is this way. So I'm going to go here, there. So the whole look of this, and the reason this happens too is guys, because from right here, if I'm going ulnar, I'm also going to lower the arms as well. Those work like hand in hand. So look at where all the force direction is. So by the way, this is always like relative to my sagittal plane. Right now, my midline or my sagittal plane, which are the same things, pointing right over towards this TV. I go whoomp, that's pointing towards the camera. So if I put energy in here, I can't rotate anymore. Because if I did with that, I'd look like this. No good like tell me one good player that looks like that. It ain't gonna happen. So this can't rotate. So how do I control the bottom out? I'm gonna shove my pelvis forward and rotate it and pin this back. So as I'm lowering here, see how I'm shoving this forward? Look at my trunk, this stalls. So the way that I square it is through, that action there. External rotation, supination, what have you, okay? So that's one load and unload in the hands and how it matches up to the body. The other load and unload, I could go, let's just focus on the trail hand only. Pronation, shuts the face. Then I would go into extension. Okay, now I'd go supination to flexion. So it looks here, there. That's a much different pattern. Now, when I do this, if I go, and we'll just add body movement here again. If I go turn, shut the face, so that's that pronation state. Extension, see how the face is shut? Now from here, I'm going to move it that way. As I turn, I'm going to look in here. So as I keep turning, now it's square. See how the face is square now because of body rotation here in my chest? And what's going to end up happening if I rotate, angular momentum or angular force takes over, and that's the release. So I have this extension to flexion release pattern. Those are the two extremes. That is like Jimmy Walker versus Hovland and what their hands are doing. Okay, and they're leaning into those spectrums. So it's like, how much of either one do you need? So yeah, can you hit a shot where we go here, there, and hit it okay? Sure, but that pattern looks a lot different than that pattern. They're very different patterns. And this is the cool thing about our game and the creative space in coaching is going, which one of those is going to suit the player best based on their needs? Health of their body, speed, ball flight efficiency. All of this is like, we take into account. So it's not like there's one way that's right and one way that's wrong, because you can hit a great golf ball in either one of those maps. But if you have a ton of speed, be warned. If you don't have a bunch of speed, be warned. You need a better filtering system for what kind of a pattern is going to suit you best. So hopefully that answers that question on how to load and unload based on the hands, but it's a bigger scope than that. You've got to fit the body into that as well so that it all makes sense. And so the golf swing at that point probably just turns into a shape in your mind rather than like clunking through all these different positions and all these anatomical phrases. So good question, good question. Okay, I think we answered some questions there, homie G.
Yes,
Even
sir.
though we were freaking golf pros again and like, no, audio's
Technology.
down. Everybody panic. We just ran around and started yelling, I don't know what to do. So thanks for being patient with us. Obviously, this gets posted on X Factor. It also gets posted on YouTube. So you got questions on this? Ask them. We're here to answer them. In the meantime, till we see you in a week, thumpers only, baby. Thumpers only. Have a great one. Talk to you soon.